Now, we've been talking about the hostages in relation with meeting with the head of the hostage families, I should say, meeting with the head of the Red Cross. Well, U.S. President Joe Biden himself met yesterday in the White House with families of representatives of families of Israelis being held hostage in Gaza. Afterwards, the president tweeted, "I reassured them that I will continue doing everything possible to secure the release of their family members." Now, among those who took part in that meeting was Jonathan Dekel-Chen, whose son Sagui went missing and is presumed taken hostage into Gaza after fighting off Hamas terrorists at Kibbutz Nir Oz on October 7th. His mother, Naomi, was also injured in that attack. She just managed to escape the terrorists, you could say, at the last moment while she was being abducted. Well, joining us now from Washington is Jonathan Dekel-Chen. Jonathan, thank you for joining us. First of all, excuse me, what can you tell us about that meeting with President Biden yesterday?
Well, I can tell you that it was an extraordinary moment, I think, for all of the hostage families who had gathered there. And keep in mind that Secretary of State Blinken was also at the meeting. And for the better part of 2 hours, the leaders of the free world sat and spoke with us and listened to us a great deal. They were as transparent as they could be and made it very clear. We knew this in advance, but really made it clear and affirmed that they are in this fight for the long haul. The fight meaning getting all of the hostages out, not just the remaining 8 American Israelis, but all 138. And they are doing and will continue to do whatever is in their power to get the hostages back home.
Okay, that was the message the president had for you and maybe Secretary Blinken. What was the message that you had for him, speaking, or that, and when I say you, I mean the hostage families, the representatives there, including yourself?
Well, first, it was a message of gratitude, to be completely honest. I mean, keep in mind that from 2 or 3 days after the massacre on October 7th, multiple agencies of the U.S. government, including President Biden himself, have been in frequent and transparent contact with us, all of the American hostage families. And we've seen that how instrumental the U.S. government has been in facilitating, beyond its frequent contact with us, in facilitating that first round of hostage releases, which brought, in my case, a bit more than 30 hostages from Nir Oz back home. And they, while it's not my son Sagui, these are all people who are like my extended family,
sure,
women and children. So it's enormous gratitude, and really we made it clear to the president that we are also partners in the efforts that the United States is making. That's what I can share with you about the content of the meeting.
Right, and I want to get. I want to just come back to Israel for a minute because the president of the International Red Cross, I think, right at this very moment, is having her first meeting with also other members, representatives of the hostage families. There's been a lot of criticism by not even I would say even the efforts of the Red Cross, not even just what they've achieved, but even the efforts. Sagui, I think it was reported that he took part in the defense of Nir Oz. He could have been wounded there. The failure of the Red Cross to even attain any information about the condition of those hostages, never mind even proof of life. So I just want to get your response to that and what you may have to say on that regard, especially to the International Red Cross.
Well, I think any clear-minded person understands that there's been an enormous failure here by the International Committee of the Red Cross. It is their job, and they have an international mandate, and it was part of that the agreement. The first wave of hostage releases for them to go into Gaza. Hamas controlled Gaza, obviously, and get proof of life. What we've heard up to now, from to the degree that they've been communicating with us, is that Hamas is not allowing them to go and visit any of the hostages. To what degree the Red Cross has the ability to force Hamas to allow this to happen, I can't say. What I do know is that if they indeed are unable by any creative means, the Red Cross, to obtain signs of life, to deliver desperately needed medical aid to what we suspect are almost all of the hostages, those that were wounded and those that are starving and those that are not, the older folks and perhaps younger folks as well, who are not receiving their medical treatment. If in fact they cannot do it, the Red Cross, then they should shout it out to the heavens. Let the world know in no uncertain terms that Hamas is not allowing the Red Cross to visit with our hostages, and to put the blame publicly on Hamas, because it is utterly outrageous. The Red Cross, okay, on the one hand, has been unable or isn't putting enough effort into seeing the hostages, but even more so that they are saying nothing about it in any public, serious way. So as far as I'm concerned, it's one or the other. Either go see the hostages if you can, and if not, let the world know that Hamas is preventing you from doing your job.
Right, that's what's kind of missing, that expressing that viewpoint more vocally, as much as they do about the humanitarian situation in Gaza as well. Finally, I do want to ask you, there has been growing discussion here in Israel, public discussion about the Israeli government's approach to the hostage issue, about prioritizing perhaps one goal of this conflict, freeing the hostages, with the one of destroying Hamas, whether enough efforts are being made to seek some kind of further hostage release via Qatar. These are all very difficult and complicated questions. I'm just going to generalize and just ask you, what would you like to see the government, the Israeli government, doing in this situation that either it's not doing, or that it's doing, or that is sufficient, but you would like to see doing more?
It's not my job to give policy recommendations to the government about this or anything else. What I can say, and what I will say, is that our government in Israel needs to do whatever it can and must to get all of the hostages home alive. I can certainly speak for those hostages who were taken from the border kibbutzim, that we were utterly abandoned by the country and by the army on October 7th. And I mean, on my kibbutz alone, every experience was a bit different. The army arrived an hour to an hour and a half after the terrorists were already gone. There is no moral ground on which this government can stand that does not bring with it a moral, political, historical, national imperative to get all of the hostages home now. No excuses. No one more than someone like me, who's lived on the border for the last 40 years and has had to worry daily since 2008 for his children and now grandchildren about Hamas rockets and Hamas mortars and Hamas attack tunnels. No one more than me understands the importance of eradicating Hamas as a military and governing organization. That's clear. But these hostages can't be, we've already been sacrificed by the government once. And I simply will not accept that this government or any other government will allow these 138, mostly men, but also women and children, will be sacrificed a second time. That is something that Israel, any government, simply could not allow for. And every day that goes by, time is getting short. We know this from the released hostages. Don't have to guess. These are testimonies from the 100 or so people, the older folks certainly, who can testify to it every day, every hour. And our 138 brothers and sisters are at grave risk. They need to come out now. The Israeli government needs to do, as difficult as it might be, to make tough decisions, to grow a political backbone and get these hostages out now.
All right, Jonathan Dekel-Chen, of course, we thank you for joining us. But of course, most of all, we join you in your wish for the safe return of your son, Sagui, a hero for his actions certainly on that day, and of course for all of the hostages that still remain there in in the Gaza Strip. The time is to bring him home now. Jonathan, thank you for joining us on I-24 News.
Thank you for having me.